Hi, my name is John, and today we're going to be talking about gen Pokemon, legitimate caught Pokemon, as well as hacked Pokemon. Because a lot of people seem to get real confused. They think hacked and gen Pokemon are the same thing, and they're totally not. They're not the same. There's no way that would be the same, and I'm going to be showing you demonstrations on the game as well as on PK Hex to kind of show you the difference. Because PK Hex can actually, tell you all about the Pokemon way more detail than if you go onto the game and actually look at it. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this. The first thing we're going to discuss is a legitimate caught Pokemon, which is also known as is it legit? I know you guys have heard that several times, hundreds of times. I've heard it lots of times in my years. So we're going to go ahead. I'm also going to be switching between two different screens, the live gameplay as well as this screen right here. So if you guys see that, that's exactly what we're doing, so I can show you demonstrations. Okay, so a legitimate caught Pokemon is basically by you going into the wilds, such as right here, and actually just catching one of these Pokemon. That would be consistent with a legitimate caught Pokemon. So we're going to go ahead and catch the Pokemon. And it would be consistent with a legitimate caught Pokemon. See, so I have caught this Pokemon, so this Pokemon is caught and it was legitimate. Because I caught it in the game and I did not get it by ginning the Pokemon or anything like that. And obviously it's not hacked because I caught it in the game. Uh, and I'm going to show you all the difference between hacked and ginned because a lot of people get confused behind that. They think because a Pokemon has got all this stuff on it, it's got to be hacked. Well, how do you know that? If it's got 6 IVs and that's your answer, no, that's not true. And I do a lot of giveaways on Facebook, a lot, a lot of giveaways constantly. So there's a lot of, back and forth that I have with people. I had one person say, he's looking for a Pokemon, but he doesn't want a Gen. Well, there's nothing wrong with Gen. So why even put that in there? When you put that in there, you're basically only wanting somebody to trade you a Pokemon that was legitimately caught or earned. How are you going to ensure that? There's no way for the other person. If the other person tells you, oh, yeah, it's legitimate, I got it through legitimate means, and he tells you, how do you know that's true? How are you going to prove that? You can't. There's absolutely no way to prove that. He could have actually ginned it, and you would have never known. And I'm going to show you how you have never known. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this one. Now this Pokemon is an event, so it looks like it was the event. Looks like there's nothing wrong with it. Just because it's got PP ups, that doesn't mean anything. Anybody could have PP max and actually max out their PP moves, so there's nothing wrong with that. Said it joined me from the region. I can't pronounce it very well. Doesn't even look suspicious to me at all. Looks like a legitimate caught Pokemon. Now, let's see what PK Hex actually says about the Pokemon. Okay, so this is the Pokemon that we were just looking at. And it says that it is perfectly legal, and this is the latest edition that I have right here on my screen. It was caught right here. It was actually in Sword before it came to Scarlet. That's why it says Battle Version Sword. The original origin game is White 2. And it was made on 8/25/2013, so it looks totally legit. I wouldn't say legit, but I, would say it looks legal. There's nothing wrong with it, right? So we're gonna go ahead and look at it right here, and the start date was August 19th, 2013. I have the date of the 25th, so that means that I got the event legally, right? Guess what? It's Gent. I've never played that game. I don't know anybody that even has that game. You would have to have Pokemon Bank for something like that. For anybody that has one of these shiny events still in there, that would be a miracle. Because a lot of people don't have these old events, and if they do, uh, yeah, it would be a very small number that still has a legitimate event that they got legally through the game means instead of hacking means. Extremely rare. This is a very old Pokemon. I mean, we're talking 2013 here. So most cases are it's probably going to be Gen. Now, what does Gen mean? Gen is basically it was just generated using what I'm using right now, PK Hex. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly legal. You can use it with anybody ever again in your entire life. That's the only way you would actually 100% guarantee that every Pokemon is legitimately caught. You cannot sit there and trade with somebody and just 100% assume that they're trading you a legitimate caught Pokemon because they say it is. How are you going to prove otherwise? Now, all I have to do is take one of these Pokemon like this one right here. I could take this Pokemon right here uh, and literally go right here and just make sure the IVs, and I could just put them at random, and it's perfectly legal, and set it, and then turn around and trade it to you. And how are you going to know? I mean, how in the world are you going to know that I didn't, I mean, how in the world are you going to know that I didn't illegally do that? And then see, they'll get rid of this. They'll get rid of anything that might look suspicious to you. Not to them, but to you. And they'll make sure. And I'll turn around and make it shiny. Says it's legal. And I'll throw in a free item. Let's see. Put a PP max on it, right? How are you going to know that that wasn't legitimate? There's no way for you to know that because everything on it is perfectly legal. I've got the stats randomized to make sure that you don't know that it was Gen, and you would never know. So when somebody says that they got a Pokemon from somebody, they said it was legitimate, the stats look good, they're not suspicious. What does that even mean, stats don't look suspicious? I mean, I could turn around and put look at that. It says it's legal. So how are you going to know, or why would you even think that that is suspicious right there? If I was trying to just get rid of this Pokemon on you, right? I'm trying to get rid of it. How's that suspicious? That's not suspicious at all. Because that's perfectly legal to find something like that in the game. It is possible. And as long as that is possible, all I have to tell you is, yeah, I caught it on, and I was like, I caught it not too long. I caught it a while back, but still got it. And when it's an old date, people seem to fall for it to where they say it's not Gen, but it actually is. So I turned around and tested it not too long ago and gave somebody a Pokemon that was Gen, and they asked if it was legitimate. I caught it. I said, yep, I sure did. I caught it. They fell for it. I later on told them that it was Gen and that it was part of a demonstration. And I said, could you tell if it was Gen? He goes, actually, I couldn't. I literally thought it was legitimate. But I'm an honest person, so I didn't, I was trying to tell him, you've got to watch out for these things because anybody could turn around and sit there and trade you a gen versus a legitimate caught Pokemon. If you're only into legitimate and you only want them caught in the game, how are you going to 100% make sure that that's true? There's no way for you to do that. You could sit there and try that all day. There's no way. Now on to the next task. You might see this happen quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a Cherish Ball. Now, just so everybody knows, and whoever doesn't know this, you cannot legally in the game have a red Cherish Ball. That is reserved only for events. So, if for somehow, you if for somehow you think that you can somehow get and I was just looking at the event, if you see this event, it's in a red Cherish Ball. That's because it's an event. Only events can have a red Cherish Ball. Now okay, so I had to go back and fix something because it just didn't take it, and that happens when you're trying to do hack stuff. But this is just a demonstration. Also, by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but yeah, as you can see, I could literally be hold on a second. I could be offline and I could still hack stuff in, and you're probably like, how? Because when you're online in the game, you're only online to trade with another person. If I was trying to hack something in, I don't really need the internet in the game on to be able to do that, because it doesn't use the internet for the game. And so, remember that Pokemon I caught in the beginning of my video? Okay, well I put a held item on it right after I went offline. See, I put a PP max on it. So yeah, I don't need to be online to be able to, sit there and hack stuff in an illegal Pokemon or something. As long as I'm not trying to use it online or anything. A lot of people are like, oh, nobody will know. Well, it's not exactly true. If you go online for any reason, just because you're not trying to trade it, and just because you're not trying to, you're not trying to go online on a battle event or even on a raid online, they're not going to know. That's probably true, but you take a lot of risk when you have something like that in your box, because if you make that fatal mistake and accidentally do it, it'll get you caught. So the item that we put away was a red Cherish Ball, which, by the way, is event only. So anybody that has a Pokemon that is in the wild that is caught with a red Cherish Ball, it is 100% hacked, as I'm doing right now just to show you a demonstration. So, because that's not possible. It just can't happen. See, it was caught in a red Cherish Ball, which, by the way, is not possible. Okay, so we're gonna go to the box, and right away it's got a flag. I mean, you could just, you couldn't miss it. And it tells you right away, it says can't have ball for a counter type, and that just means because I have it in a red cherish ball. Now, this is another Pokemon I caught. Remember this one? Now, if I wanted to, I could literally go back. Say I caught it on the 20th of April, and you're like, well, that's illegal. No, it's not. Because it's perfectly possible to catch a Pokemon on one day and still have that Pokemon 4 months later. It's not going to be illegal just because you still have it. So that's kind of what. And there, a lot of people look at the stats and be like, oh, well, that looks legal. Uh, but how can you really tell if a Pokemon is hacked if you don't have access to something like this, like called PK Hex? There's no way you're going to know. The game itself is not going to tell you, hey, by the way, this Pokemon is hacked. No, it's not going to tell you that. So, a legitimate caught Pokemon is something you catch in the game. That is something that you caught. Now, if you're trying to prevent yourself from getting genned or hacked Pokemon, the best way to avoid that is to never again go online in the game and only do solo stuff. Never go online, only do local stuff, and never trade with anybody. Not even if your buddy is next to you in the next room, because how do you know he doesn't have something that was genned, or it could be hacked? The problem with local, when you're doing like just like when you and your buddy are in the next room and you don't use the internet to trade, that anything that's hacked will still go through because it's on local communication. Local communication, you don't have the internet to do a check to see if it's legal or not. So without that check being done, and it's just going to go right through because of the simple fact you're on local, it's just going to go right through, and you're never going to know if it's illegal or not without one of these programs such as PK Hex. So yeah, that would be a problem. So that's why I tell people, if you want to make sure you 100% guarantee avoiding any kind of gen or hatch Pokemon, you just don't trade ever again. And that is the only way you're going to ensure that you don't have it. That you'd never catch something like that. If that's what you're trying to stay away from is Gen Pokemon. All Gen Pokemon is just basically generated Pokemon, like this. I could literally go right here. I'm going to go to Scarlet, and I'm going to put... There we go. I'm going to put a Dino. This one came from a Crystal Cavern. Let's say I was going to trade this to you, right? So I'm going to make sure, it's legal. I'll put it in a Great Ball because I don't like Pokeballs. But let's say I can put it in a. Obviously, I can't put it in a Cherish Ball because that would be hacked or illegal. I could turn around and put it in a Master Ball. And I could put the stats as 31. So now it's got 6 IVs, and I could turn around and put and right there, that's perfectly legal. Except it says it's unable to match an encounter from the origin game because of the IVs. The IVs can't be like that. So when you start messing with stuff, it becomes illegal. So it's not a good Pokemon. It's no good. So we're gonna try to go ahead and get that legalized. which we were able to do. We were able to get it legalized. And there's nothing else wrong with it. And we could turn around and make this thing shiny, but it's illegal because of the simple fact that it can't find a shiny where the Met location was. And so that would be consistent with being hacked, because I know it's illegal, but I'm going to on purpose put it in there. So that would be illegal. And if I do this, okay, so this right here is totally illegal, by the way. It is actually hacked. Uh, and I will show you that right now. This is obviously not possible in any way. So, as you can see, this is a hacked Pokemon because it's got a move that is just not possible. And if I tried to trade that Pokemon, it would not even go through because it's got a hack, because it's got hacked moves that's not possible. So that is what hacked is. It's basically where you're putting stuff on the Pokemon or in the Pokemon that is not possible at all, and that's what the word illegal is. So when you hear somebody say that it's illegal, they're basically saying it's not possible to have something like that in the game. Uh, so if I turn around and I say I met that Pokemon, uh, at a certain location when it wasn't possible to meet it at that location, that would be consistent with saying it's illegal. So when someone says legit, they're basically saying, was it legitimately caught? I did actually, I did not actually catch that Pokemon, so it was not legit. That would be consistent with it being called a gen Pokemon. A gen Pokemon is 100% way different than hacked. So 100% a gen Pokemon would be something like this Pokemon, because this one was genned in. Actually, so were these three. I have these three on here specifically when I'm doing my testing, to make sure something is legal, make sure something can trade with one of the bots if you use bots. If you don't, bots are basically a program that takes control of your Switch and basically does trades. It can do giveaways for you, it can do so many things, but it requires a hacked Switch to be able to do it. So a lot of people think they can just go to your local your local store and actually just pick up a new Switch and be like, can I hack it? Well, the answer is no, because that is the newest model that has came out, I believe. It's the OLED model. It is not currently hackable. It doesn't have the flaw that the original system had. The original system had a flaw in it because of the Navita chip that they put in there. Had a flaw in it where you could actually send a USB payload or inject a program straight to the Nintendo Switch, and it would actually respond off the SD card. And it had a flaw in the hardware. So it's not software, it's hardware. And when it's hardware, there's nothing that Nintendo can do. Nintendo could come out with every possible patch you can think of. And the only thing the patch does is prevent you from, trying to, load it back on there. You can't once you update it. All you gotta do is rewrite the code and reconfigure it, and it'll launch right again. So, to answer your question, no, you can't use. The only model you can use is the original 2018 model that first came out for the Nintendo Switch. That is the only model that you can possibly do this with. This only requires custom firmware, is all it requires. But again, custom firmware doesn't really it's not bad. It just depends on what else are you doing on there besides this. We don't do anything else besides this, so that's exactly why nothing happens to us, because we're only going to trade legal stuff. We're not going to put anything illegal on the game. We're not going to trade anything illegal with anybody. I don't even do my giveaways with anything illegal. If I have a suspicion that it's legal for any reason, I will not trade it to anybody, because I'm an honest and safe person about that. So that is the difference between hacked, gen, and legitimate Pokemon. I hope you guys now can understand that. Uh, this is a legitimate caught Pokemon because I have never traded it. I only caught it just so I can have a record of it. So I have never traded it. As you can see, I've never even messed with it. It still has 0 PP ups. And you're like, oh, that's suspicious. No, this was a 7-star raid, so it'd be anytime it's a 7-star raid, it's automatically 6 IVs. They automatically put it at 6 IVs. So for those of you who find Pokemon like that suspicious, that's what 7-star raids have. 6 IVs. Not sure why they did that, but they did. Nothing wrong with the moves or anything. This isn't even here. Has my name. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So I implore you guys to, watch this video over and over, because it's extremely valuable information. A lot of people like to sit there and like this Pokemon here this one is an event. So if I turn around and make this shiny, it's illegal because of all this. But a lot of people do it anyway. So if you see an event that came out such as this right here, and you look up the stats and everything, and you verify that it's not supposed to be shiny, what a lot of people are doing is they're making it shiny because people love shiny. Not sure why they love shiny so much, but they love Pokemon that are shiny. So that is the whole reason. These Pokemon cannot be shiny. That's why it's going to give me a flag on every one of them. So they cannot be shiny, by the way. So that's kind of a problem. A lot of people think that they'll get an event and they'll automatically just assume that it's, because somebody traded to them. Oh, I didn't know. Well, the reason they didn't know is because they don't look this stuff up. Early on, when I first started playing my game, I found out that certain Pokemon couldn't be shiny, and and so it's called shiny locked Pokemon. Most of the events that come out are shiny locked. They can't be shiny, and people use hack means to make them shiny, which makes them illegal. But they can still be traded through because they didn't mess with them. They didn't mess with the ball. They didn't mess with any of the stats. They didn't. They didn't even. All they did was make the moves legal. They changed the moves to something else, and they did this. They put all PP ups, and so the way it looks is it's perfectly, it's perfectly legal. So. That's exactly what they do. Such as this Pokemon was, So what they'll do is they'll do this. They'll make it shiny. Uh, they'll go to Med. Everything looks good right here. They'll make it 6 IVs, or whatever IV it is. They'll leave the IVs because otherwise they won't trade through if it's IV locked. And so, actually, I believe they still can trade through. Actually, I'm not even sure, actually. But I do know that people say they've made Pokemon 6 IVs when it can't, and they were able to get it traded through. But technically, it's not possible to have those 6 IVs for that particular Pokemon on that event, on that location, because it was never, it was IV locked. Basically, when they came out with the event, it can only have this IV, this IV, and this IV, 6 IV, and the rest of them have to be random, or have to be 30, but they can't be 6, all 6. And that's called IV locked. And there's cosmetic, and everything looks good on it, except for the fact that it's shiny. So The error I'm getting is invalid static encounter shiny mismatch. So that means that it's not supposed to be shiny. That's all it means. And I could easily fix that by hitting re-roll, and it will become legal all over again. So that's what people are doing. They're making Pokemon shiny that are not supposed to be shiny, and we call those legal hacked. Basically, everything about the Pokemon is legal except for one thing: it's shiny. It's not supposed to be shiny. So that would be the reason why. Okay, so I've switched back to the game, so I can wrap up. And I'm gonna go into my boxes here, and as you can see right here, this is the the Gen Pokemon that I actually, basically told you the truth that this Pokemon is Gen. It's not something that I legitimately caught. One, it's an event, so you can't actually catch it. You have to receive it as part of an event. But here's what I tell a lot of people. Y'all remember when this Pokemon came out shiny, right? Let me go to it. We know this one's not shiny, but y'all remember when this event came out, right? Most of you do. Okay, well, when this one came out, how do you think Game Freak gave you that Pokemon? Do you really stop to think about it? Like, how do you think they did it? They're using the same thing we are. Well, not the same program, but they're using their own program to basically create a Pokemon that's shiny. And they basically select what stats they wanted to have, what they wanted to come with, and it's mostly they'll put random if it's random, or if they. So they're actually generating a Pokemon as well. I mean, that's the only way that this one can be shiny is by getting it genned in, because it was never shiny to begin with. So companies actually, such as Game Freak, will go back and make a Pokemon shiny just to keep the hype up. Because that's what people want. But technically, it was genned in. We didn't gen it in; they did. So when a lot of people say I don't want to gen Pokemon, it is genned. How do you think it's got into the game in the first place? Because the company decided it was time to produce a shiny Pokemon. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but yeah, they wanted it to make it shiny, so that's exactly what they did. They came out with an event. You went on there to do a mystery gift code, and you received that Pokemon, and it was shiny. But it was also genned in because there's no other way to do it. Now, what there means, it's totally legit to other players. Even though it was genned in, they still think that that Pokemon is legit, but it's not because it was genned in. It was never shiny to begin with, so the only way to actually get it into the game is by genning it in. Just because they used their means instead of PK Hex's means doesn't really mean anything. It's all the same thing. It's just two different programs being utilized, and it's the exact same thing. So, one more thing. So yeah, any Pokemon right now that are coming from the raids or anything like that cannot be. So this is a legitimate Pokemon, Cinderace. And Cinderace cannot be shiny in any way. It can also not be a female because I've already checked that and it becomes illegal. So that's how I know that it can't be female. It has to be a male. So I used to like all my Pokemon female. I don't know. I guess it's just one of those things. But yeah. So as you can see, Cinderace here is basically. So this is what it's supposed to be legally are possible in the game. So if you see this, because this is Cinderance Unrevealed or whatever you call it, it cannot be shiny in any way. And if you see one that's shiny, it's hacked. It's legally hacked, basically. So another Pokemon that people are constantly having shiny that cannot be shiny under any circumstances because they never had an event for it. There was never an event for it to be shiny. It was never in any game shiny ever at all. So, but they have to make a shiny color for it because in case they ever change their minds, that's there. Looking for the other one. Here we go. So this Pokemon, this is the color that it's supposed to be. It is supposed to be red, so it cannot be shiny in any way. Legal color is this color right here. So what people are doing is they're doing this. So that's what they're doing. Okay, so what they're basically doing is they're making Pokemon that are shiny. They're not supposed to be shiny. As you can see, I have a shiny locked Pokemon in my possession. This is for demonstration purposes only. This Pokemon cannot be shiny. It cannot be this color. It's not supposed to be yellow. It is supposed to be red. So this is what people are trading with each other. Now the moves and everything else is legal. The only problem is it's shiny locked. They don't have a way to prevent shiny locked Pokemon from going through. So that's why it goes through. But technically, no, this Pokemon is totally illegal. It cannot be shiny in any way. So just keep that in mind. So that's what a lot of people actually do. So that's what a lot of people actually do is they put shiny locked Pokemon like this that you are seeing here. Uh, it, you know, like I can go through the list here and show you. For example, here's another one. This one seems to be the most popular one. Uh, this one right here, and they're going around and they're doing this, and they're making a shiny locked. So we'll go ahead and put it on here just for demonstration purposes. So that's what it looks like shiny, guys. Let me get a bigger size for you. Alright, get a good look. So that's what a shiny locked Hoopa looks like. It cannot be this color ever because this is a shiny color. But everything else is perfectly legal on the Pokemon itself. The moves, again, are legal. And as you can see, where it joined from. But it's perfectly legal. Well, guys, I've been doing this for quite a long time, trying to explain all the little differences for you. I hope I've explained the difference between a legitimate caught Pokemon in the game. If you want to prevent yourself from getting gent or hacked Pokemon, don't ever trade, don't ever go online and play nothing but solo, and you'll never have to worry about it. If you don't mind the gen Pokemon, but you try to avoid hacked Pokemon, then you need to start looking up Pokemon that are shiny locked. And you'll find a lot of resources that explain, hey, this is shiny locked, this is shiny locked, that is shiny locked. So if you turn around and you follow that guide, you will keep yourself 100% safe. But when you trade a Pokemon with somebody that is gen, my advice to you is if they tell you it's gen, tell them to show you PK Hex that is showing that it's legal. Because if you sit there and you trade a Pokemon with somebody and it turns out it is not legal, such as it being shiny or non-shiny, that would probably be one of the key factors. If they try to trade a Pokemon to you and it's got, like, okay, this is Hoopa. Let's say it had Dynamax Cannon on it, it wouldn't let it go through because it's got a move that's illegal. So they'll stop you right there. It won't let that go through. A lot of you say that people try to trade you eggs, and the eggs aren't trading, right? So then you're thinking, oh, that's a problem, right? There's just something wrong with the eggs. No, there's nothing wrong. Problem is they have an illegal egg. Let me show you what they're doing. So here's exactly what people are doing when it comes to eggs and why it won't go through. They're making it on PK Hex and everything, but there's one last thing that they do that seems to make it illegal because it can't do it like that. And that's just so that way they can tell what the name, what the egg is and all of that, but it's not going to let you do that. So what they're doing is, we'll take this egg right here, put it in the box, and see it's got the nickname of egg. And so what they're doing is they're doing this. They're just basically putting the name of the egg, and right away says egg does not match language egg name. So that's exactly why it's illegal, because it has to say egg. It can't. You can't put a custom name on there like we'll put Casper. So, yeah, no matter what I put, it's going to sit there and tell me it's illegal. So that's what the name has to say, egg. Can't say anything else because it's an egg, and everything about the egg is legal. It's got legal moves and everything else. And so this is the original egg. I didn't mess with it in any way. Eggs also can't have PP ups. Says cannot apply PP ups to an egg. So there's a cosmetic. There's nothing wrong with it, so it'll trade perfectly fine. I have the hatch counter on 1, so it'll hatch pretty fast. A lot of people say that if the hatch counter, if it hatches so fast, it's got to be gendered. That's not true. It's not true at all. Anybody can walk around with that egg and go into a building or something, and then as soon as they come out and starts hatching, that could mean anything. And you know, they could have taken a while to walk around with and just never picked up on it, but that doesn't mean that. That doesn't mean it's gent. So a lot of people have their telltale signs and their gen signs. I've given you my opinions. I really, I don't believe in telltale signs at all. I've actually caught a few Pokemon myself that were already 6 IVs. They were hard to catch, but I was able to catch them. And I caught them shiny, so they were perfectly legal. So again, it just depends on exactly what, how you're doing it. But if you don't accuse somebody unless you absolutely know for sure that they traded you a legal hacked Pokemon, basically where it's shiny and it's not supposed to be shiny. Make sure you check your facts. I always go on Google and stuff like that, and it's perfectly fine. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope it was really good. I will put the description to my Discord as well as to the Facebook group on the description. I really hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope it explained a lot for you.